going to dive into exercises that you can do on a day where you're having more fatigue. And there's lots of variations and modifications. So you'll be able to find something that works for you regardless of what type of day you're having. There was one other disclaimer before we get started is, as always, just listen to your body. If you're having a day today where you're not very fatigued, that's okay. You can push yourself a little bit harder. But if you are having a day with moderate fatigue, little bit of fatigue, it's going to be totally up to you. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll move my chair out of the way. And all of the exercises that I focus on are MS specific and functional, meaning they're geared towards improving your day-to-day movements. Fatigue is a little bit of a different beast than our normal type of functional strengthening exercises. So you'll get a taste for that today. Today, we are focusing on fatigue, and hopefully you watch this recording many, many, many times, and that might change the way that you do the exercises. If today you're feeling pretty energized and you're doing well, you can put some more oomph and power and motion behind each of the movements that we do today. But if you're feeling moderate fatigue or even severe fatigue, you can do less. Maybe you're putting less movement in, less effort in. There's so much research that shows that exercising at low levels and moderate levels can actually improve fatigue. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. It probably sounds weird and too good to be true. But if you move in the right way without pushing yourself too much, it actually can be really beneficial for primary and secondary fatigue. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. If this class ever feels too long as you're doing the recording, you can do half of the class. You can just pick your favorite moves and just do that. It's really going to be up to you and what your body feels like today. And then lastly, I just wanted to share, I'm going to be doing the class in this chair. But if you're doing this recording and you have a high fatigue day, you could do it in a chair like this. You could do it in bed. The majority of the exercises you can do anywhere. So don't feel like you can't do it if you don't have access to a chair or sitting up or an exercise room. You can do these anywhere. Okay, so what I first want us to do is, if you're not slouching and relaxed already, you can go ahead and slouch and relax and just kind of wiggle and shake yourself out here. Move your legs, whatever feels good to you. We're just going to try to release any tension, because tension can build up on these high fatigue days, or even moderate or low fatigue days. Tension builds up without us even knowing it. It's so sneaky. So just kind of shake out. And then when you're ready, before you sit up straight, I want you to engage your belly muscles. And this actually could be its own exercise where you're just reclined and you're going to use your belly muscles to pull your belly button in towards your spine, and then you can relax. So we're not going to do that as an exercise today. So that's just an extra idea for you. But you'll pull it in, and once it's in, you should feel some tightness in your core. Then go ahead and sit up tall. And once you're sitting up tall, it's up to you if you want to be sitting unsupported, meaning you're away from the back of the chair, or supported, meaning you're up tall, touching the back of your chair. Touching the back of your chair is going to make this a little bit easier because your core is still working, but it has support from the chair. Whereas if you're in the middle of the chair, it requires more effort on your part because you don't have the support. So totally up to you and how you're feeling today. Normally, I start all of my classes with cardio, because cardio movements done prior to strengthening exercises primes your brain for neuroplasticity, meaning your brain is that much more likely to strengthen those neural pathways or find new neural pathways. But when we have fatigue, the goal of movement on that day is not necessarily neuroplasticity or functional movements. The goal is to reduce fatigue. So all these exercises are still functional, but we're not going to do cardio today for that reason. I want you to use your effort with the actual movements versus cardio. So now that you're sitting up tall, engage your belly again. If you tended to lose it, brace again. Shake out here. So we did our shaking out when we were reclined. Shake out again. just nice and loose, whatever your body wants to do. And then slow it down. Make sure that belly is tight again. You're just pulling that belly button in. Hands are going to be closed, and we're going to do some arm swings. So this actually is normally an exercise that I do for cardio, but we're not doing it for cardio right now. Again, if you're having a day where you're actually feeling pretty good, you're not that fatigued, you can go a little bit faster if you want to, or add more power. But when we're talking about fatigue, we're just trying to get our body moving. And one thing that I like to do with fatigue days is add more movement if possible. So what that would look like is we keep our same pace, but we just lift a little bit higher. And you should feel like your back arm is going back further, your front arm is going up further. You're just moving a little bit more than usual. Now that does use more muscles. You will feel your shoulders burning just a little bit more than if you weren't moving that much. So if that's too much, just come back down here. Remember, today we're shooting for a low to moderate intensity level, but the whole time you're listening to your body. You can go at your own pace. You can go faster or slower than me, or in pace with me. You can take breaks. You can pause if you need to. You have permission to do whatever your body feels like you need. A few more seconds here. And hopefully this feels pretty calm for you. We're just kind of waking up those muscles. And that's really what the big goal is during fatigue days, is wake your muscles up. During fatigue days, they tend to quite literally fall asleep, and that makes mobility even more challenging. Slow down your arms. You can stop and shake everything out. We're going to move on to our next exercise, which we're going to move to a different body part, because assuming your arms were feeling that a bit, I know my shoulders are burning a little, we want that to relax before we do our next upper body exercise. So for the next one, brace again. So pull your belly button in and recline backwards. So if you were sitting supported, I want you to scoot your bottom a little bit more forward. So you should be at this angle. It's not a big angle, but you should be relaxed. You can hold on to your chair. And again, your belly muscles are still braced. And we're going to do some marching. So lift one leg up and then down, then the other leg up and down. Now, this is typically a pretty challenging movement anyways, even not on a day where you're feeling high fatigue. So on a fatigue day, you might have one leg that doesn't lift at all, or it barely lifts. That's okay. In that case, the goal is just to wake up that neural pathway. So you don't have to see any movement. Ideally, you will feel some tension in your hip flexors, but you don't have to see big movement or any movement. Similarly, if you're having a good day, go ahead and lift as high as you can. Keep that belly muscle braced. If you're having a big fatigue day, just maybe barely any lifts or anywhere in between. We're just waking up those hip flexors. These are muscles that we use every single day, even getting in and out of bed, walking, climbing stairs. So we're just slow marching. If you need a break, you can stop if you need to. Otherwise, you've got a few more seconds here. What I like to do for fatigue day exercises is listen to my body in a sense of how many minutes can I do this for? Or how many seconds can I do this for? Stop there. So you'll notice I'm not necessarily counting to 10 or 5 or 15 or 20. I'm going based on how it feels for me. So if you feel like you can't keep going, you don't have the endurance for as long as what we just did, that's okay. Stop yourself earlier. Okay. Brace your belly muscles again in case you lost it. So pull your belly button in towards your spine by using your abdominal muscles. You can then use your hands and prop yourself back up. Once you're here, shake out again. And we're going to go back to one of our upper body exercises. So once you feel like you've shaken out, if you want to scoot back so that you're supported, you absolutely can. Just make sure you're still keeping good posture. I'm going to sit unsupported right now. So once you're here, you're going to close your hands. Don't squeeze them, just close them loosely. And we're just going to slowly punch forward. This is another one that I usually like to do for cardio, but we're not doing it for cardio today. We're just trying to wake up our muscles. The muscles we're waking up right now are our shoulders and really every muscle in our arm, even our wrist, our hand. But if you're adding a little bit of a twist, you're also waking up more of your core muscles. Your torso is likely doing something like this as you're punching forward. And that does wake up your core muscles in a really nice way. So again, we're not trying to fatigue anything. We're just waking things up. If today's a good day for you, add some power. Really punch behind each movement. Or you can go faster if you want. But for fatigue days, we're just trying to get our arms moving, get our torso moving, our core, you name it. Sitting up tall, if you started to slouch, try to sit back up tall again. Slow and steady, whatever your body feels like it needs. And let me also point out an elephant that might be in the room, which is going slow is hard. Going slow requires you to use more muscle over a longer period of time. So right now, my shoulders are burning a little bit just from this exercise. I'm sure yours might be too. So go ahead and slow down and stop. Shake everything out. Sometimes faster might actually be a little bit easier. So don't be afraid to try out different speeds on this type of fatigue day. You could have looked like this, and that might have felt a little bit better for you. Or if this height was too challenging, you can always punch down towards your knees. So there's lots of different options. Okay, going back to our legs. So keep your belly muscles engaged, pull your belly button in towards your spine. And I want you to scoot backwards. So if you're not already at the back of your chair, we're all going to sit supported. So your back is fully touching the back of your chair, or if you happen to be in bed or a chair like this, scoot as far back as you can while keeping good posture. You're not slouching. Your hands can hold on to the chair. Belly muscles are still engaged if possible. And you're just going to kick one leg forward and then down, and then forward and down. And you're not kicking as far as you can. We're not going for any awards today. We're just trying to wake up these muscles. So in this case, we're waking up our quad muscles and our hamstring muscles on the back of our legs. So you can go nice, slow and steady like I am here. If you want, you could go a little bit faster. It might feel better and easier to just kind of swing your legs. If you don't have any spasticity, that should be doable. If you do have spasticity, slower movements might be better. Or just straightening and bending to whatever you feel you can do today. Straighten. I'm already feeling a little bit of a burn in my quad muscles. I'm going to keep going for a little bit. Listen to your body. If you need to stop, go ahead and stop. And down. Belly muscle is still braced. Doesn't matter how high your leg is going. If you're having a good day today, you could really try to fully straighten, add a pause, slowly bend. That's going to be a little bit more intense to fully straighten. And again, if fatigue is high today, you might not be able to move much at all on one or both sides. Again, that's fine. We're more so going to wake up those neural pathways. That's the goal here. So whatever speed you can manage, whatever motion you can manage is good. We're waking up those quads on the front of our thighs and our hamstrings on the back of our thighs. A few more here, a few more seconds. Hopefully you feel those muscles waking up. I know I do. All right, and then when you're ready, stop. You can let your legs relax, let your belly relax. We've been holding our belly in for a while now. Let your belly relax, legs relax. If they need a bit of a massage, if that felt any form of intense for you, then you can just use the balls of your feet, heel of your palm, that's what it's called, heel of your palm, and just kind of massage those muscles out. And then when you're ready, we're going to scoot forward to the middle of our chair again, if you're able to. All right, so go ahead and scoot forward. So you're about in the middle of your chair or surface that you're sitting on. And sit up tall. Again, bring your belly muscles in. So now we're going to do a different core exercise that uses our postural muscles as well. So we're trying to stay up in our tallest posture. Belly muscles are brought in, meaning you're bringing your belly button in towards your spine, but still able to breathe. Fingers are going to go down towards the floor. And we're going to do one of my favorite core exercises. I call it the penguin because I feel like a penguin as I'm doing it. What we're going to do is we're going to tip our upper body just as far as you feel you can go. And you're reaching one hand down towards the ground and then slowly up. And the other side. So you're not shifting your weight at all in the sense that both hips are evenly planted through the surface that you're sitting on. You're not shifting like that. You're just tipping your upper body. I like to think of the I'm a Little Teapot song every time I do this, because you know how the teapot, it's got a handle and a spout and it tips over. It's that same type of tipping. We're not literally trying to touch the floor. What I see often with this one is people trying to really touch the floor and they're going way too far. We're just going in that direction, but the goal is not to touch the floor. So you should feel a stretch here and then tightening there. And then when you go the other way, you'll feel a stretch here and then a tightening on that side. So this is a combo exercise of a stretching and strengthening for our core and for our posture, as long as we're staying up straight. So just slow and steady movements and up. You don't have to go as far as I'm going, or maybe you're going further than I'm going. This part of this depends on how long our torso is, how long our arms are. So don't feel like you need to look exactly like me. Do what feels good for you and your body. And up. If you are on a surface where you can't reach down like this with an extended arm, like if you are doing this in bed, you can do the same exercise, but your arms are not reaching fully down. So you just have your elbows bent. You could even do it up here if you wanted. So there's any variation. The goal with all exercise is just to make it as doable as possible for you. All right, I'm going to stop here and take a deep breath and shake everything out. We've just got one final exercise before we'll go through these all over again. So shake everything out if you need. You can let yourself slouch, even a light stretch if you need to. We've been using our core a lot today. Just sitting up tall requires a lot of our core. All right. If you have water nearby, do feel free to take sips, even though your core temperature hopefully isn't rising too much with these exercises. You're still moving, you're still using your muscles, so keeping your core temperature down with cold water is important. Okay, our final exercise for this round is our ankle muscles. So we've warmed up our shoulders and our arms, we've warmed up our core, we've warmed up our hips and our thighs. Now we need to warm up our ankles and just get those neural pathways moving. So you're going to sit up tall in the middle of your chair if possible, and scoot your knees or scoot your feet a little bit further away from you so your knees are a little bit straighter. Your feet are still flat on the ground though. You're not starting with your toes up. And what you're going to do is slowly lift both of your toes up, not just your toes, your whole forefoot. So your heel stays down and then everything else comes up and then lowers. If it's easier for you to just focus on one side, you can absolutely just do one side and then the other. And you'll notice that I'm looking down. And the reason for that is because if I don't look down, I don't really know exactly what is happening with my ankle. It might be turning out, might be turning in, my knee might be falling in. And even though today is a lighter day and for a fatigue day, we are still trying to have good form. So looking down at your ankle and making sure it's lifting up and it's staying flat. It's not rolling in any way. And then down. And the other side. So again, you can do both at the same time or one then the other. Again, it's normal for one to be weaker than the other when MS is involved. If today is a day where it's not lifting at all, that's okay. I would still recommend practicing this exercise. You can still wake up and strengthen those neural pathways that go all the way down to your ankle, even if the ankle isn't moving. Now you keep going. I just want to demonstrate one other thing. In case you are watching this recording from bed one day or from your couch, I want to show you what this would look like if you had your legs extended. So I'm going to show you on the floor, but just know this example is not for you to do on the floor. It's just if you happen to be in an extended position. So this exercise for our ankles would look like this. So you're pulling your foot up and down, up and down. And normally for this exercise, I would say to not use assistance. Don't use a strap, don't use a mobility band or yoga strap, resistance band, anything like that. But when you are having fatigue, you can use some assistance to help you do the motion that you're trying to aim for. The thing about that though is you want to make sure you're not only using your arms, that your arms aren't doing all of the work. All right, you can go ahead and stop there. I know my ankles are getting tired. Since I'm down here, I do just want to show you for the marching exercise that we did, which was the lifting our knees up, down. If you're in this position, what that would look like is if your knees are bent and you're bringing it towards you. So this is a pretty challenging one if you are in this position. So if you were on a bed or a couch, you could always lay down for that one and it would look like this. So there's a few different options there. And then for the leg kick one, where we were kicking our legs out straight and then bending, what that would look like if you're in this position is this. So you bend first and straighten. So regardless of where you are right now, there's always an option. It might look a little bit different, but that's what that exercise that we did seated would look like if you were on a bed or a couch with your legs extended. Okay, amazing job. We made it through all of them. We're going to go through that again. So right now it's been probably about 25 minutes or so. If that feels good for you, you can stop here. You don't have to do 2 rounds. But if you feel like you're actually warmed up and you might be feeling better, a little bit more energized, even already, you can join us for the second round. So we always want to start off loose. So go ahead and shake again. We've done this a few times. You can never overshake. I went to a physical therapy continuing education course one time, and we literally talked about the benefits of shaking and getting our bodies loose for about 2 hours. It was that important of a topic. So shake and loose, get those muscles to just fully relax. All right, and when we're ready, back up to the top. So again, belly muscles are pulled in. You can scoot back if you do want to be supported or stay in the middle of your chair. We're going to just close our hands loosely. We're not squeezing. And those arm swings going back up to the top. Again, if today is a day where you want to push yourself a little bit more, your options are to go a little bit faster. You can add more movement. You can add more power. Any of those are good choices. But for fatigue days, just slow and steady. In our first round, we did add more power. That really worked our shoulders. I felt it almost right away. Or sorry, not more power, more movement is what I meant to say. You don't have to do that though. It could even look like this. This could be your arm swing today. So it's whatever your body is feeling like. So slow and steady. Even with this one, even though we're mostly staying forward, it does require our core to activate just a little bit in order for one arm to swing asymmetrically compared to the other arm. That uses our core. Any type of asymmetric movement activates our core so that we stay balanced and we don't just fall over to one side and then the other. So we're getting a decent amount of core activation today, which is great because the more strength we have in our core, the more stable we feel, which is always important, but especially on fatigue days. Okay, slow it down if you haven't already, and shake everything out. All right, so we're gonna move on to our legs. We just did our shoulders again, so we're gonna scoot back, or no, sorry, not scoot back, recline backwards. And let me show you from this side, just so you can see exactly how reclined I am. We all can be different levels of reclined. as long as it feels good to you. So I was doing my arm swings about here. So I'm going to tighten my belly muscles, put my arms back here, and recline. So this feels a little bit too far for me. I feel like I might slide forward. So I'm just going to shimmy back a little. So this is about the recline that I have. You might be more reclined or less reclined. Engage your belly muscles. Your core should be working during this exercise. And we're just going to lift. So these are our marches. And remember, I just demonstrated if your legs are out, if you're on a bed or on a couch, you can lie flat and it would look very similar to what we're doing, or just bend your knees and bring your knees towards you. So there were those two different options, but we're just doing what feels good for us today. If you want, you can lift higher. If it feels better to go faster just because that's easier, that's okay too. We're just waking things up here today. Keep your core muscles engaged. It's easy to forget about those, which is why I keep mentioning them. It's easy to just think about the exercise itself and then forget that you weren't tightening your core muscles anymore. Still breathing. Whatever pace feels good to you. Take breaks if you need to. And when you're ready, you can slow it down and then stop. If you want to wiggle out here, shake out, let your belly hang loose, relax. Again, we're using our belly in almost every exercise today. Relax, shake things out. And when you're ready, you can use your hands and tighten your belly again to pull yourself back up. So you should still be about the middle or middle back of your chair. So if you want to get support, you can scoot all the way back or stay in the middle. We're moving back to our upper body movement of our forward punches. So hands are just loosely closed. Don't squeeze. Keep your shoulders down away from your ears and just slow forward punches. Again, if your shoulders are already tired, this is our second round. We've done a few arm movements. If your shoulders are tired, punch down towards your knees. That's going to make it less cumbersome. I don't know if that's the word I want to use. Less challenging, less weight on your shoulders. And if you want, you can add a little bit of a twist with your torso. So as you can see, I'm facing you a little bit more now, and this I'm facing a little bit away from you. So this just warms up our spine, our twisting. Again, whatever pace feels good to you. If it does feel better to punch forward, you obviously can go for that. There's no right or wrong today. It's all about what feels good to you. All right, keep going. I'm feeling the burn a little bit, so I'm going to go for a few more seconds and I'm going to stop. You can always go longer than me if you feel like it. All right, I'm going to stop here. Whew, I feel my shoulders burning a bit. Shaking everything out. Back to our next exercise to give our upper body a break, moving on to our legs again. So sitting up tall, if you did start to slouch, pull your belly in, and we're all going to get supported from the back of our chair. This will make the exercise a little bit easier. And on days like today, we want every exercise to be as easy as possible. So the more support you have under the majority of your thighs, the easier this exercise will be. So my thighs are supported until here. That's going to be easier than if the chair is only supporting my thigh to here. So that's why this is going to be a little bit better of a position. Making sure that even though we're up back against the chair, we're still in a good posture. We're not slouching. All right, and once we're here, you're going to do your forward kick and bend. Kick and bend. This exercise in particular, and specifically the bending part, is one of the most challenging parts for all of my MSing Link members, my one-on-one clients, everyone that I work with. This one tends to be the most challenging. So on fatigue days, it likely will be even more challenging, but don't let that get you down. Again, I keep mentioning this, but the amount of movement Doesn't really matter right now. We're just waking up the quads and the hamstrings and those neural pathways that go to those muscle groups. If you've got more energy, if the first round energized you and you do feel a little bit better, you can go ahead and try to fully straighten and maybe even fully bend. How far can you bend backwards? So you could do that on both sides. If it feels better for you to just move a little bit quicker, I demonstrated this last time too, but you could just dangle. I'm short enough where I can. If you're taller, you might not be able to dangle, but dangling is a way to still activate these muscle groups in less of a controlled way, but still a way where it wakes them up. A few more here. I do feel my muscles starting to burn and work, so I don't want to fatigue them too much. So I'm going to stop right there. And I'm just going to do the same thing I did last time where I massaged them out a little bit. Now, there's lots of exercises we can do on fatigue days, including standing ones. But the thing about standing exercises is that it requires not just strength from what we're doing today, but also balance. So it requires two different forms of exercise. And on fatigue days, I usually only like to work one type of exercise at a time. In this case, it's just strengthening and movement. Okay, so once we're done there, we're going to come back up and we're going to our core. I'm going to face you again for this one just because I am going to stay facing sideways because I want to show you something. So we're all going to scoot forward. So we're about in the middle of our chair, if possible. Tighten your belly muscles, shake everything out if you need to. And sitting up tall. And then we're going to reach to our side. So this is our penguin exercise. And the reason I wanted to stay facing sideways for a few rounds of this so that you could see that I'm not hinging forward. I'm going purely to the side. I'm not coming up here. So if you're going up there, you might be a little bit more likely to tweak back muscles because you're using your back more so than your side. So we're trying our best to just stay directly side and not come forward. With that said, if going forward does for some reason feel better for you, great. Trust what your body is telling you. You can do whatever your body feels like it needs. Always, but especially on fatigue days. And tip, remember, we're just going as far as we can comfortably. And up. We're feeling this nice stretch on this side. And then we feel those same muscles tighten. Just slow and steady. Up. Tip. A few more here. Make sure your belly muscles are still brought in. If you let your belly loose, bring your belly in again for the last few repetitions. All right, and once you're back up to the top, you can stop here. You can let yourself slouch, take a deep breath if you need to, shake things out. And our final exercise is the ankle lifts. So I think personally find it easier to scoot a little bit closer to the edge and then straighten out those knees. And you could even try this right now. If you try lifting up your toes here, it's so much harder than if your knees are out straighter. I don't know why everyone doesn't know this trick, but it's a really nice trick. Straighten your knees, feet are still flat on the floor. And lifting from here is just a lot easier, still challenging, but it's easier than this angle. And it all has to do with the angle of our knee here. This is more bent versus this is straight. So this is our second time doing this, so you know what it felt like for you. If you want to do one side and then the other, that works. If you want to do both sides at the same time, sometimes that's easier. Either way, sit up tall, belly muscles are brought in, look down at your feet, and then go ahead and slowly lift, making sure there's no angling, and lower. And slowly up. And down. You can go whatever pace feels good to you. This exercise in particular, we're strengthening the muscles on the front of our ankle. So if you have foot drop, this is going to be a really great muscle and neural pathway to activate and wake up and keep awake because we use it so much. You might need to take some breaks with this one. Sometimes these muscles are really small. They're very thin, and so they can cramp pretty easily compared to other muscles. So if you need to take a break, you can. And then whenever you're ready, you can come back into it. A few more. All right, I'm gonna do 2 more. I feel those muscles work, and I'm ready for a solid break, not just a quick one and jumping back in. Okay, shake everything out. So those were 2 rounds of our fatigue exercises. And just know as well, there's lots of exercises, as I mentioned just a bit ago, for fatigue. What I want to end today's class with is some stretches, because on fatigue days, the best thing for you might be a stretch. And so I want to make sure that you're aware of some that you can do from a seated position, and I can also demonstrate them lying down as well. So the first stretch that we're going to do is for our neck, and actually scoot back so that you're fully supported. This time you can let your belly go. I still want you in a good posture. I don't want anyone slouching, but you don't have to tighten your belly for this one. Arms are just going to dangle down by your side. And if you're on a bed or something where they're propped up like this, that's okay. And just drop one ear to one shoulder. However far your head falls is fine. We're not trying to actively get our neck to go as far as we can. And you should feel a nice light stretch on the top of your neck. If you do need more of a stretch, you can reach this hand, so the side that you're feeling the stretch on, you can reach it down towards the floor. Actively try to lengthen that arm so that the fingers go close to the floor, and that should increase the amount of stretch that you feel. Our neck muscles get tight always, but on fatigue days, they tend to get even tighter. One reason being, on fatigue days, we tend to stress out a little bit more because we probably have things to do. And now we might not be able to do them, and our mind starts going and everything starts to tighten up. To go over to the other side, we're going to roll our chin to our chest and go all the way over to the other side. And then once you're over there, go ahead and look at me. So we should be looking at each other right now. And now you're feeling a stretch on the top of the other side of your neck. Neck mobility is an interesting thing because everyone has a different amount of mobility, which is true for every joint. But I might be moving my neck way more than you are right now, and that's okay. That's just how my neck moves. It's how my spine moves. Or maybe you're way further than me. That's okay too. As long as it feels like a nice light stretch on the top, then that's what we're aiming for. If you do need a little bit more of a stretch, you can reach that hand down towards the floor. Hold here just a little bit longer. To get out of this stretch, we're going to roll our head forward, chin to chest, and then look up towards me. Nice. Go ahead and shake everything out. The next stretch I want to do is going to be for our torso. We used our torso a lot today. So scoot a little bit forward. And one of my favorite stretches is the twist. So we use our arms to help us here. So one arm comes to the outside of the thigh. The other arm goes somewhere behind you to grab on. And then you use your arms to push you. So your torso is fully relaxed right now. You're using your arms to get this nice spinal twist, torso stretch. Keep breathing. If you feel like you can't breathe, then maybe back off a little bit. And slowly release that. And we're going to come all the way over to the other side. So now this is my left hand coming over to the right outer thigh. Right hand goes somewhere behind you, anywhere, and you might have to shimmy around a bit to make it work for you. But the most important part, use your hands, use your arms to push and pull so that you get into that twist. And when you're ready, slowly unwind. Nice. Again, we can shake everything out. It's so important to shake out and just loosen. Always, not just on fatigue days, but especially on fatigue days. We don't want to keep our muscles nice and tight the rest of the day. We want them to get tight, then loose, tight, then loose. The next stretch I want to show you is the figure 4 stretch. So when we have fatigue days, our hips tend to get even tighter than usual. And so we're going to do a figure 4 stretch followed by a hamstring stretch to fully stretch out our hip areas. So the modified version of this is to cross one leg over the other, sit up tall, and then hinge forward. And you'd feel some type of stretch here. And if you're doing this lying down, or like propped up with your legs out straight, that'll be the best version. I'll hop down there and demonstrate that for you in a second. But if you're able, you can grab your leg. And again, your arms are doing the work here. Once your leg is up here, your arms are holding it there. This leg is just completely dead weight. And if you already feel a stretch in your outer hip, you can just stay here. If you need more of a stretch, you can sit up as tall as you can. And if you need even more of a stretch, you can hinge forward. And at some point in there, even if you're really flexible, you should feel a stretch on somewhere on the outside of your hip or thigh. If you are really flexible and you don't feel a stretch there, I just want to remind you or inform you, if you've never heard this before, you don't have to be in a really deep stretch to be actually stretching the muscle, even if you don't feel it. If you're really flexible, let's just pretend I'm really flexible. I might not feel any stretch here as I'm in this position, but I'm still stretching the muscle. The muscle is not normally in this position. I am purposely moving it into a different position. So even though I didn't feel it, it's still being stretched out of its normal position. So you don't always need to aggressively stretch, and you don't need to aggressively feel a stretch. It's just whatever you can do with keeping good posture. All right, when you're ready, if you were hinging forward, stop hinging, slouch to lower the stretch, and then you can lower that leg. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you'll either cross or lift. I'm going to hop down just to demonstrate what it would look like down there. So if you are in a position where your legs are extended, it would look like this. And then from here, you can sit up tall and hinge forward if you need to. Another variation, if you can get into this position, is you can bend this leg. This one's harder for me, so I'm going to scoot a little bit forward to make it easier. But you'd bend that leg, and then this one comes on top. And you can feel that outer hip stretch here too. So this is how you would be able to do that leg stretch in this position. I just did that leg, so I'll demonstrate with the other leg. Ugh. I do have tight hip muscles, so this one is more challenging for me. This is one option, or I could keep it down here, but then sit up taller. The torso twist stretch would have been the same if you were down here. So your legs would still be out. You would just twist like this or the other way. And the neck stretch would have been the same as well. Okay, the final stretch I want to do. So if you are hinging forward, stop hinging, slouch so that the stretch lessens, and then you can lower that leg. The next one is a hamstring stretch. I'll demonstrate down here first, and then I'll hop back in my chair. So for the hamstring stretch, you're going to straighten one leg if you're seated. If you're sitting like this, both legs can be straight, or you can bend one leg. If we want to do this leg first, you can do whatever you want with this leg. one leg is straight, and then all of us are going to sit up tall. If you're really tight, you might already feel the stretch. If not, hinge forward. It doesn't matter what your ankle is doing. Don't feel like you need to keep it up. That's going to be challenging. It can be doing whatever feels good to you. Regardless, you'd feel the stretch on the back of your knee and or back of your thigh. The hamstrings run all the way from that bone that we sit on, all the way down to behind our knee. So you'll feel it wherever your muscles are tightest. If you are sitting on a bed or a couch and your legs are extended out like mine, if you did keep both legs straight, that's fine. You'll just feel a stretch on both sides at the same time. Keep breathing. All right, and when you're ready, you can bend that leg that's straight, bend it. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll come back up to my chair to demonstrate. So you're sitting about middle of your chair, middle towards the edge, and straighten your knee. The thing about the hamstring stretch is the straighter the knee, the more you'll feel the stretch. So if it's still a little bit bent, it might be due to tight muscles or spasticity, or it could be because you're too far back in your chair. So scoot a little bit further forward. Once it's straight, sit up tall and hinge forward. And again, you should feel that stretch behind the back of your leg, the upper leg. And keep breathing. And when you're ready, you can come back up, slouch to get rid of any stretch that is there. Bring that leg back in. And that concludes the class for today. But with that said, if you feel like your body needs anything else right now, if you feel like it needs another neck stretch or maybe an arm stretch or anything at all, use that information of what you're feeling right now to actually give your body what it's asking for. There's no right or wrong here. It's all about, again, activating those neural pathways and then just loosening what we can, since tension does tend to build up, especially on fatigue days. So great job. And just one final reminder, as you're watching this recording, you can split it up. You could have just done one round of the exercises in the beginning. You could fast forward and just do the stretches part. You can do whatever works for you and your energy levels today. So great job. And I hope you enjoy this every time that you do it. All right.